Aging, a biological process as old as the earliest forms of life, from single-celled prokaryotes to complex multicellular animals, including, of course, us humans. Aging has always played a role throughout the 200,000 years we've been around. We would exist, eventually grow older and older, and then die, and our offspring would continue to go down the same path. But nobody ever questioned it. It was just something that occurred and we accepted and dealt with it. Until recently, of course, during the age of technology, where scientists started playing around and experimenting with cells and the mechanisms behind why they would age. And although we still don't completely understand the concept, we are getting very much closer to potentially finding a cure. We have already been able to do crazy things, like accelerate aging in mice, and then reverse it. Scientists have also been able to grow human brain cells in a lab, age them, and then successfully reverse them again. Dr. David Sinclair, a professor of genetics at Harvard University, even said we will definitely find the cure. It's just a matter of when. But this also comes with a huge problem, because even after we find that cure, what do we do next? Will it cost millions or billions of dollars per person? Will it only be given out to those who agree to not create more offspring? Lots of questions and issues will likely arise, and we would have to try and find an agreeable solution. But first, let's briefly discuss the mechanism behind aging and its issues. Aging in biological terms is the process by which our cells multiply, getting weaker and weaker after each division, until eventually they can't function, a point at which our entire body collapses and dies. There are many factors that contribute to this functional decline. One of them involves telomeres, which are the ends of the DNA within our chromosomes. These ends don't really code for anything, so they are behind all the important DNA. However, each time our cells divide, telomeres get lost until eventually the important DNA gets exposed and lost, slowly creating a loss of function for the cells. Another cause is the decline in mitochondrial function, an organelle within the cell that produces a molecule called ATP, an essential form of energy needed for the cells to function. And so, if there are less of these molecules, our cells become weaker in function and age. The list goes on with numerous other factors, such as diet, various and specific changes to our DNA, stem cell dysfunction, and more, all of which we don't completely understand or know the direct cause of. But we can physically see these processes take place in us and the people around us, with the obvious symptoms including thinning hair, weaker muscles, weaker senses, increased risk of diseases such as heart attacks and memory loss, and the list goes on and on. There have been medications that have helped with this, but for the most part, these symptoms seem inevitable, with the average person 65 or older spending more than triple what a young adult would need to spend, and with the population of older people rising in many first world countries, the cost definitely won't lower anytime soon. Aside from that, dealing with the daily symptoms of being slower, weaker, and more in pain isn't something anybody would want to go through, right? Also, seeing others and their loved ones eventually pass away because of aging is also a terrible experience, and the limited time we seem to have in a world full of so many potential experiences isn't a thought a lot of us like to have. And if we are spending so much time and money in prolonging the human lifespan, would it not make sense to just create something that permanently gets the job done? So imagine then, after so long, that the cure to aging is finally made. After all that research, all that time, and all that money, and the cure officially works on any human and stops aging, and matter of fact even reverses it so that we have our 20-year-old bodies again. What would happen next? Of course, the majority of us would want to take that cure for ourselves, whether it's in the form of a pill, injection, or anything else. But a huge issue with that is with the 7.6 billion people on the planet. If everyone could suddenly live forever, the world would overpopulate in no time, and everyone would die from lack of resources. So we would definitely have to be smart with our next approach, something that will likely be extremely difficult. Simply put, if the birth rate is dramatically higher than the death rate, it would be a terrible sign. Already dealing with overpopulation has been difficult, with only the first world countries showing signs of a decreasing population. Meanwhile, most of the third world countries, especially within Africa, have shown exponential increases in population. Some data have even projected that Africa will increase from the current 1.5 billion people to 5 billion people, with signs still showing of a dramatically increasing population. But let's focus on a country like Japan, one of the most developed and technological first world countries, with the most decreasing population. Even though the country has an incredibly low death rate and very high life expectancy, it also has an incredibly low birth rate as well. The reasons behind this can include a very high workforce, causing families to have fewer children, with a lot of them not prioritizing relationships or children anymore. In fact, because the country is now decreasing in population so rapidly, by the end of the 21st century, the population is projected to be at about 60% of what it's currently at, matching the population from before the 1960s. In fact, with so many countries becoming just as developed, it's only a matter of time when a decreasing population could be a pretty significant issue in many or even most parts of the world. But even then, would we really be able to handle the cure to aging? Even with an extremely low birth rate, the cure would cause the death rate to become almost zero, and the population would start to increase pretty rapidly again. We could agree to ban procreation on those who decide to become aging free, but depending on how many agree, it could still cause problems. Assuming we were able to biologically secure their inability for procreation, let's just say that half the population agrees to never procreate, and is sexually isolated from the other half, that does age, but can still procreate. If the overall population isn't too large, and the other half of the population is stabilized, it could possibly work, at least on a single country. But could this work amongst the whole world with billions of people? With the overall world population not slowing down anytime soon, it might increase to beyond its holding capacity even without the cure. If we were to wait for the entire world to stabilize in population, this could work. But then again, the amount of time that we would need to wait for that would likely be well into the 22nd century, as only by 2086 will the world population officially peak. Also, the population would have to be stabilized throughout the entire world. That is, unless immigration was banned and the cure was isolated, something that would also cause lots of controversy. Also, how would the decision making for someone regarding aging even work? Would they have kids and then decide to take the cure for aging? What if they change their mind later on in life? These are also very big issues, further complicating the situation. Aside from this strategy, however, are there any other strategies that could be even better to implement? Ones that don't involve prohibiting procreation or depending on overall demographic trends? Well, another potential scenario could be charging a very high price for the cure, although definitely not a very popular idea amongst most, with a very high likelihood of causing controversy. It could definitely be an idea that comes off the ultra wealthy, especially from oligarchy or dictatorship countries, but at too high of a price, one side, particularly the supporters, could argue on how it balances the amount of people who could live forever and affects the way the population changes. The opposing side could talk about the massive unfairness and how their lives should be seen as just as important. The cure to aging could also be treated as something that is only used for very special purposes, such as if someone lost most of their life in prison after being wrongfully accused, or if they needed to send a person on a journey that was many hundred light years away. Although definitely not a very popular suggestion, it could be the most fair and least detrimental. After all, we did live for hundreds of thousands of years without immortality, and it was just simply how the world was in order. But even if all of us could safely live forever, would the world really be a better place? Would our realization of unlimited time cause us to procrastinate and make us lazy? Could our infinite long life eventually lead to psychological damage? Imagine the people working the same job and living the same kind of life for thousands of years without retirement, or the lack of children or variety in the ages we see. Some might say that nature should just run its course on us without bending the rules. But regardless of the many situations that may or may not come after we make the cure to aging, one thing is certain, and it's that a lot of difficult thinking and planning will have to come. It may not come quickly, but like all other problems we've faced, it isn't something that we can't solve. But for now, the best way to prolong your life and slow down aging is to just eat natural and healthy, exercise daily, and be in a positive environment. We may not be able to live forever, but we can have a long and satisfying life if we make the most of our time. For more information regarding health and aging, check out the link in the description, and as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video if possible.